Okay, today what we're going to be doing is messing around with Photoshop. We're going to be making some simple buttons using shape layers. Just kind of quick 3 or 4 step tutorials. First thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to make a canvas here. We're going to go to new document, and what I want to do is I'm going to set this up for web. I'm going to set the default size to 1024 by 768. It gives me a nice size to play with. And also, this is becoming the default size to design websites to. It used to be 800 by 600 a couple of years ago. 5 or 6 years before that, it was 640 by 480. So as the quality and the resolution of the monitors increase, so will the physical size of the websites. It's all resolution dependent. So anyway, we're going to set this up 1024 by 768. Resolution is 72. We'll leave that right now. RGB color, white background. That's fine. We're going to leave the advanced things for alone right now. I'm going to go to OK, and we're going to open up this nice page here. So this is what we have. We've got our nice page here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the grid. I'm going to go into my preferences, and I'm going to go down to this little fella here, units and rulers. Number 1, I want to make sure this guy is set to pixels. Everything else is relatively fine. I'm going to go, now after this is set up, I can actually go down here and go into any number of these guys to mess with different preference settings. The other one I want to go into is guides and grid, which is right below. So I'm going to click on that guy, and I want to make sure basically that my grid lines are set to every 10 pixels, not inches, centimeters, pixels. Why? Because that way we ensure anything we draw is divisible by 10, which makes things real easy when you're developing your CSS after you're laying everything out. Subdivisions, well, that's up to you. I'll put in 4, for example, just to see. You can modify, and right now these are all modifiable. The colors, all in these colors are all modifiable. I've got a purple right now just to show up nice, so I'm going to go OK. Now if I was to go in here, actually what I'm going to do is pull up my character palette, show my keyboard viewer, so you can actually see what's going on. So if I was to hit command, I believe it's apostrophe, there's my grid, and I can zoom right in here real quick. And so this, you'll see basically the subdivisions are the dotted lines, and the actual solid lines are the grid itself. So if I was to go in, I'm just going to marquee this. There's my 10 pixel by 10 pixel chunk right there. So it just makes it easy when you're developing layouts and stuff, and drawing nav bars and that kind of thing, to keep it like that. If I have the selection selected, if I want to deselect it, I am going to do Command D. You'll see it's going to show up right there, bonk, and then that selection goes away. So that's that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get back here. We don't really need this grid right away. I'm going to hide it here for a second. What we're going to do is we're going to draw some things with the shape layer. So number 1, how to draw a box with a shape layer. So I'm going to get my pen tool selected, number 1, and I'm going to go up here. I want to make sure this guy is selected. That's my, we'll wait till I mouse over, that's my shape layer option for the path tool. Want to make sure the pen tool is selected, of course, and then there's my different options. I got a rectangle tool, rounded rectangle, ellipse tool, etc. I'm going to click on the rectangle tool right here, and all I got to do is just click and draw. There you go. Now you'll see up over in the layers panel, it adds a layer right there. It's called a shape layer. This little guy is the actual vector, and this little guy is the color. Well, I'm just going to let go of it, and let's see what Photoshop says, what it's programmed to say. It's the layer thumbnail. And then this guy here is called the vector mask thumbnail. So if I was to click on the layer thumbnail here, double click on it, and we're going to go over here. Ah, look, it's defaulted to white, so I can change it to, say, a nice dark color. I'm going to go OK like so. There you go. That's how you make a button. That's how you make a shape. If I want to, for example, get rid of it or change it, I can resize it. And maybe, let's say I want to make it to a certain pixel size. I can go in, I'm going to turn on my grid. I'm going to zoom in here a bit. Let's kind of zoom in here, and I'm going to go to press V to get my move tool. I want to snug this guy in, so everything kind of snaps to shape. zoom in here a bit more. That's what I thought. I'm gonna use my you can actually see the line itself. That's the actual vector mask line. These pixels here, that's kind of just like a little bit of fuzz. So if I snap this up like so, if I can actually nudge this along, nudge it right in there. There we go. I'm using my free transform tool, by the way. It's the bounding box. So I just want to make sure this guy is actually snugged right in, just like so. Hit OK. Now, of course, this is huge, right? So I'm going to go down over here, and then I'm going to do my Command T. It gets my free transform, and I'm just going to bring this in, just so it snugs up, so it fits nicely within my grid. And I mean, you could make this whatever. I just wanted to make it, you know, fit within the actual grid pixels, so everything lays out and everything transforms well over to CSS. So now that I've got that set up, everything's nice. She's nice and clean. So there's my little box there. So say for example I wanted to do a reflection on this button. Well, let's see how many steps it's going to take to do this. It's going to take a couple steps. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to duplicate this layer, and we're going to have to modify the shape of the duplicated layer using the pen tool, and we are going to put in a layer mask on that modified shape, and then we're going to put on a gradient in the layer mask, and then that's it. So what we're going to do is, number one, we're going to actually go in and Command J, we're going to duplicate that layer. Okay, so you got shape, layer, copy. I'm going to go in here and I am going to double click on this and change the color just a bit, because this is kind of our highlight. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to go in here and we're going to go in and select, use my command keys and select the actual shape itself. Once that's selected, I can go in and actually mouse over, and you see when I mouse over the actual edge of this line, my pen tool turns into a plus, which means I can add a point. So I add a point right there. Once the point is added, I'm going to go in and I'm going to hold down my command key again and click and drag this guy down, and if I hold my shift key, it basically snaps it to the 45, so it goes on a 45-degree angle. So if I let the shift key off, it allows me to drag it down in any direction. So I'm going to drag this down just a little bit like so. Maybe I may also want to drag down my two other points, so I can drag this point down like so, and I can go over here and drag this point down like so also. You'll notice now actually in a lot of shiny button like nav bars, the shine, this shadow part, this gloss is actually altered, so it may look a bit more like that. It's a bit more organic looking. So say for example I'm just gonna do this kind of shape. So now we've got this shape done, and I can just put my command key and click off this. If I want to hide it, I'm gonna hold my command key and do H to hide this actual layer, which is cool, to hide the shape layer, the path. It's still there, so I can go Command H again, and it'll pop back up. So once that's done, what I'm going to do is, hang on a second, we've got a fudge over here. Let's see what this looks like. And I'm just going to nudge this back over in line. I'm going to bring that over here in space. Right on. Okay, now we're set up. So now we got this set up. This is basic, our basic shape. I want to add a gradient layer mask to this thing. So first step I have to do is I have to add a layer mask, number one. So I'm going to go down here, I'm going to select that guy, make sure the layer is selected first. Go down here, and then I'm going to mouse over this guy. If it kind of works, I got to get my mouse to hold still. Add layer mask. So if you ever get confused and wonder what these tools do, just mouse over it and it will tell you. So basically I can go over here, I'm going to go add layer mask, click. There's my layer mask, shows up right there. Now what I want to do is do a gradient to this. So I'm going to go over, I'm going to get to my gradient tool, which is G, Command G. So I've got that selected. I'm going to go up here and just click on my, my gradient editor, and it's just right up over